Hey, you there. Yes, you there. I'm talking to you. Have you been looking for how to get better at Sork? Have you been wanting that coaching session you've always needed? Well, look no further. It's your boy Purple Slushy bringing you guys another banger. In today's video, my friend asked me if he could get some lessons at Sork because he's been on the class for a while now, but he's been having some hard times in 1v1s, and it's been really frustrating. And for any of you guys who know Sork, it's a super high-tech class, a lot of combos, a lot of little things that you just won't learn unless someone teaches you those things. So in this video, it's going to be about an hour long. It's a two-part series. The coaching session was about 2 hours, so I'm going to try to put some chapters in this so you guys can kind of skim through it. If you guys want to watch the whole thing, go ahead. If not, just go ahead and skim through it and see if you guys can't learn anything. But today's video is just going to be a coaching session. I hope you guys enjoy this type of content. I'm going to be bringing more stuff like this to you in the future, but sit back, relax, grab some coffee, grab some water. This video is going to be lit. Until next time, it's been your boy Purple Slushy. Enjoy the video. Peace. Alright, do you want to duel once and then I could see like your fighting style and then we could work off of that?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. I'm ready.
Yep. Yeah. It's off to a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, that disc really gets you. So when you were backing out right there at the end, did you just like backstep out like in pre-awaken?
I think so. I was just trying to get away.
Yeah, so what you want to do, like the biggest thing, especially when you're low, so anytime you have like someone like launching like a disc at you like this, or like they're real close to you, like here, I'm gonna CC you, and then like when you get up, back out like you normally do. So like when you back out, the best way to back out is as soon as you do that first back step, you want to C-swap, and so when you C-swap, it gives you that instant frontal linger. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
So if you're really low health and you want to back out like that at the end, it's really important to make sure that you give yourself some sort of protection, because if like you're really low and then you just like get up and then iframe backwards, I could easily just hit you like with a quick Dream of Doom like right at your face, like, and just kill you, just because that second backstep is just that you do is just a super armor, right? So like you want to make sure that if you're really low health, you don't overuse that backstep or the sidestep when you don't need to, when it's just super armor. You want to make sure that if you're low health, whenever you back out, you're C-swapping to get that frontal guard, that frontal linger. And then besides that, another thing that's that you could do, so when you're really low health and you back up and then you C-swap, you're kind of locked into that position for a second. So another thing that you can do, so instead of like when you back out and then C-swap and you're in your frontal guard, instead of using Absolute Darkness to swap to your pre-awaken, it's going to leave you completely vulnerable for like a split second. And when you're really low health and someone's chasing after you, they're going to try to take advantage of like something like that. So what you can do is you can back up, C-swap into the frontal, and then immediately go into Nightmare, because Nightmare is giving you a super armor. So during that second where you're swapping to your awaken, getting that linger, it's going to give you a second to get another health pot off, and then you can go into your nocturne, or I mean your nightmare, and then you'll be able to stay invis for a little bit. So that should help you out a lot. Another thing that's really important when you're fighting another Sork is anytime like a Sork's playing with you with like their disc, like a lot of disc play, it's not really too smart to be iframing to the side, because what the disc does is like, here, I'm gonna launch it at you and iframe to the side. So, all right, here, do it again. Okay, one sec. All right, one more time, go ahead. So sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. It wasn't doing that there, but every once in a while the way that a disc works is it goes to where you are, like where you were previously at. So it'll go to you right here, and then whenever you iframe, it'll follow you. So the reason why you don't want to iframe sideways when the disc is curving is because if you iframe sideways and that disc follows you, it's gonna hit you in your back. So anytime that a Sorg is playing really aggressive with like their discs, you always want to iframe backwards, because when you iframe backwards, that disc, like iframe backwards with your scythe right now. Go ahead. So you see how like it kept following you, but you were facing towards it the whole time, so there was no way for it to get to your back. So it's really important when you're fighting someone that's using a lot of discs to make sure that you're constantly protecting your back and going backwards. Now, do you use like SA disc or SA grim?
Grim.
Okay, so when you use SA grim, so another thing that a lot of people take advantage of, especially really good sorks, whenever you iframe backwards, they know that you're gonna be locked in for a second. So what I like to do is I like to make sure that I have any one of my super armors available at the ready. So whether that's Engulfing Shadow, whether that is Grim Reaper if you have the Bond, whether that is, what else do we have? You could go into Nightmare, or you could also go into Crows. So I use discs. So anytime like someone is coming towards me, like launch a disc at me. So like I'll back up and then I'll launch another disc. Like I won't launch my disc, but I'll cast my disc because I use SA disc. So not only am I backing up and getting that frontal, but a lot of sorks, after they throw that first disc at you, they'll come in like this and then they'll try to Midnight Stinger you from the back. So if you use a disc, like use a disc on me and launch it and then try to like Shadow Leap to me and then Midnight Stinger me.
I missed.
Yeah, so launch the disc first and then Shadow Leap towards me.
Oh, I meant to.
So you launch the disc and then I back up and then I go into super armor. So not only am I blocking the disc with my frontal guard, but I'm also blocking the disc with my own super armor as well. Now like launch another disc at me and then come close to me again. So like I could immediately go into my Grim Reaper and then be ready for you to come in like that and then go in with the super armor. So it's really important. A lot of sorks, they either CC you with Shadow Leap, Midnight Stinger. Another pretty advanced one is Rushing Crow into Midnight Stinger. Also, another really nice one is Nightmare into the back attack. So as long as you know how people engage you, you can always kind of play it passively and kind of bait them. After you duel like a Sork 2 or 3 times, each Sork has a specific playstyle that they use. So either a Sork's going to be super passive or they're going to be super aggressive. And based off that, there's 2 decisions that you can make. You can be like, okay, well, if this Sork's going to be super passive, I can kind of just wait and bait him out and kind of just play off of a mistake that he makes. Because it's a lot easier to catch a Sork that's playing super aggressive than one that's playing super passive if they know what they're doing. So like if a Sork's playing super aggressive and they're like coming up to you and they're like doing like moves like this and you just can't really like tell what they're doing, the best thing for you to do is one, either match their aggression, because a lot of people, especially when they're very aggressive, the reason why they're so aggressive is because they know that the person they're playing is super passive. So it's way easier to fight someone that's playing super aggressive with aggression because they're not used to it. They're not going to be ready for you to be just as aggressive as they are. And when someone's playing super aggressive and then all of a sudden the opponent that they're fighting is also being aggressive, they kind of like freak out and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do now. Like I'm having all these holes that are open. Because when you're playing super aggressive, you leave yourself open for a lot of like instances for you to like get CC'd or whatever. Whereas like someone who's just playing passive and they're like back like this and they're just using their discs, it's a lot harder to like be aggressive against them or like catch them off guard just for the fact that they're playing so passive. Although it is technically a little bit easier to catch someone that is playing passive because there will be certain times that they will have to go aggressive on you to try to get a CC. Whereas like someone that's always aggressive on you, you'll have a lot better chance of catching them way more often than someone who's playing super passive. Another thing that's super important that you want to take into account is when you're fighting against another Sorc, or against anybody really. This is even something that I just recently changed, and I was making this mistake for years. So like a lot of Sorcs, when they like dip out, they'll go into Shadow Leap and then Midnight Stinger. Now the reason why that is, it's good movement, but the reason why it's not that great when you're fighting someone who's really, really good and can read what you're doing is that Midnight Stinger is leaving you completely open for a second. So if you're fighting someone and every single time they get close to you, you just Shadow Leap and Midnight Stinger, they're gonna be like, oh wow, well every time I get close to this guy, he Shadow Leaps and Midnight Stinger. So like Shadow Leap and then go into Midnight Stinger real quick.
I did not do Midnight Stinger, but still, you got me.
Yeah, like the same thing. So like if you're doing Shadow Leap in the Midnight Stinger every single time, they're gonna have that window where they're gonna be like, all right, well he's about to dip now, and then I can catch him off guard. So I was getting caught a lot in Midnight Stinger, and another thing that I was getting caught in a lot was also Dark Flame and Ultimate Dark Flame. So like what I would do normally to get away from people is I would Shadow Leap into Midnight Stinger, and then I would Dark Flame into Ultimate Dark Flame. And why that is really terrible to do is because it locks you in for a second, and basically it's really easy to get behind someone that's like, do your Ultimate Dark Flame, or like do your Dark Flame into Ultimate Dark Flame real quick. So, all right, hold on a second, I was too far away.
Right.
Okay, so do it again. So you see how I was just able to get right behind you and catch you real quick? It's super easy to catch someone off that Dark Flame. And although you're like, oh, well, I got this really nice double, frontal guard, it's not that great against a lot of classes that can get behind you easily. Classes that can counter that really easily. Kuno, they got that move that can get behind you pretty easily. Sorc can get behind you easily. Ninja can do that step where they get behind you. Hash has that teleport that gets right behind you. So the best way to move when you're moving against another Sorc is to Shadow Leap and then block. And then after you block, you just use Absolute Darkness for a second, and it takes you out of the block, and then you're able to iframe again. So the reason why you want Absolute Darkness is because if you Shadow Leap and then block, and then you iframe, you're locked in for a second into that iframe, because every iframe that you do in Awakening has a 1 second cooldown. So if I Shadow Leap, block, then iframe, then I can't like iframe again for another second. So if you Shadow Leap, block, then Absolute Darkness, you take yourself instantly into pre-awaken, and then you have like unlimited iframes. So what you should try to be practicing from now on as like a disengage is Shadow Leap, block, and then Absolute Darkness, and then just kind of like dip out. And then you could also do Shadow Leap, block, iframe, and then Absolute Darkness, and then iframe a couple times. Just make sure that if you do block and then iframe, you are using Absolute Darkness to get yourself out of that iframe that you're stuck in. Because a lot of people know that if you iframe on Awakening Sorc, there's that 1 second where they can get behind you pretty easily. So that's another thing that can help you out a lot. Another thing that is super, super important that I know a lot of Sorcs don't know is your Soul Reaper. You actually don't have to use it after Grim Reaper or Violation or Shadow Eruption. You can just use it straight from your hotbar. So a lot of times, like, try to get behind me right now, like after I iframe. So I'm gonna iframe, yeah, try to get behind me. So I can just go straight into Soul Reaper after my iframe backwards, since I'm stuck for a second, and I'm get full super armor. So it's a really good way to have filler super armor in those positions where you're really vulnerable. It's really important that you never get yourself locked into a position where you're going to be stuck in block for a certain amount of time, because it's really easy to get taken advantage of. So like the easiest ways to get out of block: Absolute Darkness into iframe, Engulfing Shadow. You can also use Soul Reaper. You can also use Grim. You only want to use Grim to get out of it if you have the Grim Bond, because you can get caught off the normal Grim because it's not protected at the end. Also, Nightmare.
Fast.
Yeah, Nightmare, and then Crows. And then that's basically it. So the main
Right.
thing is just keeping yourself fully protected, reading the fight, and basically just trying to get yourself into a position that you can capitalize on another sword. Let's do a couple more duels and then see like what you gathered from that, and then I'll see what else you could work on from that.
It's probably going to take a little more than this just to retain, by the way. So
Oh
I
yeah,
might
for
not
sure,
get it
for
for a
sure.
while.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yep.
All right. So there you came out of your awakening, and then you went into pre-awaken, and you just kind of stood still for a second. So you want to make
Yeah.
sure that like that whenever you come out of pre-awaken, you're doing it with some sort of like intent. Like you want to go into shadow eruption or like something that's going to give you that protection. Because if you're just kind of like going out, I noticed a couple times you would just kind of like go into pre-awaken and then you would just stand still for a second. So standing still is going to get you caught a lot. So if you can just make sure that you're staying protected pretty often, it'll help you out a ton.
Right. Okay.
All right, let's go again.
Ready?
Yep. Nice. So right there, I knew that you were kind of staying in the same area that you were in your nightmare. So all I did there is I just iframed forward and then back stepped out, because that back step is an actual I think it's a down attack or a down smash. No, it's not a down smash. It's a float. Yeah, it's a float.
Okay.
So if you go and you iframe in and then back step out, it's a really easy way to like catch someone off guard.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had somebody do that to me like that before out of Nightmare.
Yeah, because the end of Nightmare is unprotected. So like even
Correct.
though there was no guarantee that I was gonna iframe to the spot that you were gonna be at, it's worth just trying to hit it anyways. Like I know a lot of times, like when I first started playing Sorc, I'd be like, oh well, like I could throw a Dream of Doom here, but like it probably won't hit this person. So I'm not gonna do it. Or I could try to backstep this guy here, but it probably won't hit, so I shouldn't do it. So like always go with your gut. Like even if you don't land the CC, it's always worth doing, because even if it's only 1 out of every 10 times it lands, you're still gonna land it eventually. So it's good to just get in the mindset of always trying to take advantage of all your opponent's gaps.
Okay.
All right, okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
So right there, another thing that you can do is I normally wait till other people use their nightmare, because when you go into nightmare and then you come out, you can't move for like half of a second. So it's really
Okay.
easy to just go in a nightmare and turn your camera in like a 360, and then whenever you see that person coming out of nightmare, you just boom, and you can just capitalize right off of it. So I normally don't use nightmare unless it's really necessary, or I can counter with it. And another thing that I don't know if you know is if you okay, so if you go into nightmare, yeah, go into nightmare and then like go backwards and then hit spacebar.
Oh, time ran out.
So yeah, if you
That
go into
too.
so if you go into nightmare and then you go backwards and you hold spacebar, you immediately go into a frontal block out of nightmare. So like when you just leave nightmare normally, you're leaving it completely unprotected. But when you leave it by hitting spacebar and going backwards, you immediately go into your S block. So it's a really, really good way to get distance backwards, and also to keep yourself protected. So like go into nightmare real quick and then go out backwards, and I'll try to throw a dream and doom at you, and I'll show you what I mean.
Oh,
Okay,
all right.
you want to you gotta
Spacebar.
hit just spacebar, yeah, spacebar.
Yeah, okay. Wait for the cooldown.
Okay. All right, so go out backwards. So you see how you block that immediately?
Mm-hmm.
So not only is it giving you distance to get away, but it's also giving you that protection. So Sorc is all about keeping yourself protected as much as possible. And also another thing, I noticed that you're using your Grim Bomb, but you're not using Grim that often on me. And like when you're using the Grim Bond, you want to be using your Grim as much as possible, just so you can kind of like catch your opponent out of something that's nice. Because there's no point of using the Grim Bomb if you're not going to be using Grim often. So if you want to use Grim Bond, then I recommend using Grim more often. But if you're only going to use Grim like when you get a CC or something, then I recommend using your Disc Super Armor. But that's all up to you and your playstyle.
The main thing is, I used to use it like too much. Same with Violation. So I kind of tried to not as much, but
Well, I mean, there's no such thing as using it too much. Like,
I mean,
if
I
you
got
want
caught all the time because of it.
well, you can't get. Are you talking about your Disc or your Grim?
Grim.
So you can't get caught in Grim if you use the Bond.
Well, okay, but I get blasted still.
Yeah, so
More
like,
armor.
so like you don't want to use it in situations where like you don't want to use it in a situation where like you're just like constantly using it like in dumb scenarios, right? But like
Right.
launch a disc at me and then try to shadow leap into me right now.
It didn't launch. Is
So,
there
like-
like a way? Okay, hold on. Go ahead.
So yeah, so when you launch a disc at someone, you want to make sure that your reticle that's on them turns red, or else it won't actually launch towards them.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's basically all I was about to ask.
Yeah, so launch a disc at me and then
There we go.
yeah,
Oh,
and then shadow leap
leap,
in.
right.
So you see how I knew you were gonna launch that disc, and then I knew that you're gonna come in after that. So a lot of Sorcs, they'll launch their disc and then they'll shadow leap you. So if you're already ready after that disc and you go into the Grim, you can just easily turn your camera around and then catch them when they're behind you in like their whatever super armor or I mean whenever they're in their stinger or whatever that's unprotected. Another thing that's really good that a lot of Sorcs don't know, discs are super important in PvP, especially in 1v1s. They're probably your best tool, and they can be used in multiple ways that a lot of people don't know. So like another way, you know how like the Tamer trap, they set down that AoE trap and then you go into it and it'll like CC you. So you can do the same thing with your disc. So like when I use my disc and blow it up here, so you see how like there's that little AoE around it, how it just blows up?
Right.
So if you're in that radius of when it blows up, like here, I'll do it right here. So I'll use a disc and then I'll just blow it up. Okay, it went towards you, but I need to not be on your reticle. Okay, so you see how like it just blew up? So most of the time it'll just CC you right out of it. So what you can do is you can like set down 2 discs and then like try to shadow leap Midnight Stinger into my back right now.
With just your discs or mine?
Yeah, just shadow leap. So you see, okay, you
overshot
resist.
anyway.
Yeah, you resisted it. Hold on a second. Let's try it again. Let me get both my discs out.
All right.
Okay, now try to Shadow Leap into me again. So you see how I used it as like a trap?
Mm.
So you don't always have to use your disc as a way to like try to launch it at people and try to CC them. A lot of Sorcs, when they CC you, it's always unprotected. So like whether that's Shadow Leap into Midnight Stinger, whether that's just iframe into Ignition or iframe into Eruption, that split second they're going to be unprotected. So if you have your discs down and you know that someone's being really aggressive onto you, you can kind of like wait till they come into you and then immediately blow it up. And then whenever they try to CC you, you just capitalize off of it because they get stuck in the trap. So a lot of Sorcs don't know that you can play that way, but it's a really, really good way to punish someone who's trying to be really, really aggressive on you. But at the same time, if you miss the disc trap, you're leaving yourself unprotected for a second because launching your discs is unprotected. So you got to make sure that you're using it in a smart way and you know that it's going to hit, or else just don't use it.
Right.
All right, let's get some more duels.
All right.
Yep, see? Nice. Exactly. You did the right thing there. You punished me with the disc as I came into you, and then it did that like trap thing where it stunned me. So that was perfect.
Hey.
Yep, there you go. Nice. But I launched my disc at you, so I was able to counter it, but you still was able to capitalize off of that. So like just doing little things like that can help you out so much because you don't have to try to rely on yourself getting like a stun with like Shadow Ignition or Shadow Eruption, putting yourself in those vulnerable positions. You can kind of like play it more passive. And that's what I was saying earlier at the beginning of this session is like when you're fighting someone that's passive, it's a lot harder to CC them. But when they do make a mistake, it's a little bit easier to capitalize off of it because they're playing so slow. Whereas someone that's playing super aggressive all the time, they're going to be leaving themselves unprotected a lot more often. So it's easier to catch them out of something that they're doing that's unprotected. And that's why it's nice to play passive, because when you're playing passive, you're able to kind of like control the fight in a way. And I know a lot of people that you do or whatever, and you're playing passive, they're like, oh wow, this Sorc's playing Resident Sleeper. But like at the end of the day, it's like you're not playing Resident Sleeper. You're playing smart. You're reading your opponent. You're understanding how they're moving. You're understanding what they're doing, how they're moving, when they're going unprotected, and then you're capitalizing off of it. Whereas someone that's just playing super aggressive, they're basically just on you 24/7 hoping to get a catch. Now, someone that's playing passive is playing at a much higher skill level than someone that's playing super aggressive because they're actually reading what you're doing. They're reading when you're going unprotected, things like that. And that's just something that will come with time. But like that last duel that we just had, you played that perfectly.
Ooh, thanks. See, I feel like a lot of my problem is that Sorc has, you know, a few borderline counters, right? So, freaking Nova, dude. I have to fight Nova so freaking much, and it is insane because what am I supposed to do? I asked the Sorc
Nova's
before,
just one of those.
They said outgear them to break to their frontal guard or run, pretty much.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. There's a couple classes like that where you just want to like run. Like I have 289 AP Kudum, and like I'll fight Novas, and I'll literally do E buff, Z buff, or I'll do E buff, 50% Grim Reaper with all my AP buffs up, full Villa buff, full Church buffs, and not even get through their block, and they're just still sitting there and blocking. And like classes like that are complete counters to Sorc. And that's why I've always been in the mindset of like, they should take 360 block out of the game, because it gets to the point where like, if you don't have a grab, there's certain classes that you just can't fight because you can't ever CC them. Velk, you can't ever CC. You can CC them sometimes, like when they go to grab, you can catch them with their disc. But like Nova's completely protected all the time. Mystic is super protected all the time. Guardian, 360 block, protected all the time. Warrior, Warrior you can catch. There's a lot of gaps in Warriors. But like Nova, Velk, Guardian, you just can't do anything to them. And it's really demoralizing knowing that like you're doing everything right, and the fight lasts for like 5 minutes, and you just can't CC them, you can't do anything, can't break their frontal, and then all they do is just grab you one time and you're dead. And
Or
go ahead.
have you ever downed one? Then you're in the middle of a combo, and the dude brings up whatever you want to call him, their spawns, and he just knocks you right out of your combo, gets up, insta kills you while he's down.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me a lot. I've
Yeah.
also CC'd a geared Nova before, and I've only been able to take them down to like half health, and they get back up, and then by the time I like another minute goes by and they're back to full health and you can't even do anything. So like, don't take those classes, like take those classes with a grain of salt. Like, if you can't fight them, there's nothing wrong with that. There's just classes in this game that counter certain classes, and Velk, Guardian, Novas, Mystics, Strikers, they're just classes that counter Sorc, and that's just how the game is. So while you can be doing everything right and playing 100% correct, at the end of the day, those classes are just built to counter your whole kit. So there's no reason to get like upset about it or whatever. Like, if I see like a Nova or like any of those classes I just mentioned in Node Wars, I don't even mess with them. Like, I just let them be, because there's no point of me taking all my energy fighting these classes for like 2 or 3 minutes just to not to be able to do anything to them. Like, I could easily be like messing with like other classes on the back line, or like actually making an impact in a node war or in the RBF, rather than focusing on somebody or something that I can't ever do anything to, you know?
Right.
And that's just gonna come with time. But when you get to the point where you're like 301 AP plus with like Kunum or something, then yeah, you can fight those classes because you have the gear to be able to blow them up. But like, I'm not even at that point yet, so I'm not worried about it. But as long as you get the mechanics down and you're playing correctly, at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Right.
All right.
Like the fight last night, for example. I mean, well, I was super out geared throughout pretty much that entire thing, but it was all just the geared like AoEs, dude. Sage, Guardian, Nova, all like together. So if I ever got close, I was either CC'd by something or just instant, you know.
See, and that's the thing, is like, you don't have to play super close to someone. Like, Sorc, yeah, it's a class that you have to get close to get CCs, but at the same time, you don't. You can play passive. You could easily just sit back, keep your discs out, launch your discs into those people, and keep at a distance, and then make sure you keep keeping your discs up. And then once you do get that catch, you can just go in and CC them or whatever, and then do a combo. You don't have to go in there and play aggressive and get yourself blown up every single time. If you notice yourself in a fight and there's like a lot of classes that are doing a lot of AoEs where you can't get in, change up your playstyle. Just because you have a playstyle that's super aggressive doesn't mean that you always have to play super aggressive. You can play passive, you can play at a distance, you can use your discs to kind of like maze you out the fight. And that's what separates like your average Sorc from like a Sorc that's really good, is because they know how to adapt in different situations. They know that like if there's a lot of AoEs going off, to play passive, sit back, use your discs. They know that if there's not a lot of AoEs in, you can kind of go in, you can kind of be more aggressive. And that's just the thing that you're going to learn in time with Sorc as you play. But if you don't know like the basic fundamentals of like the movement with Shadow Leap and Absolute Darkness, and you don't know how to like keep your super armors up and what skills keep you protected at certain periods of time, then it's going to be a lot harder to try to switch your playstyle up, because you're just going to get punished for doing things that are incorrect. So that's why it's really good on Sorc to know the fundamentals, know how to move, know how to keep yourself protected. So when you do get into those situations where it's like, man, I really need to like change up my playstyle, you can just change it up on the fly and you know how to play. That makes sense. All right, let's get some more duels.
All right.
Nice, you went backwards there. That was good. Nice.
Oh, didn't even. I was too focused on what I was doing. Didn't realize you stumbled a little bit.
Yeah, that's another thing, is like when you're using discs, you always have to be ready for that catch that you get, so then that way you can go protected. That way that you can be protected on it.
Right.
Or not protect on it. That way you can capitalize off of it. Sorry, my brain is all over the place right now.
It's fine.
I gotta lock a couple skills. Give me 1 second.
You're good.
All right, I'm ready.
Right.
Yep.
Get used to that.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
That was nice. You used your disc to counter my discs, so I wasn't
That
able
was
to capitalize
not-
off of it.
that was not intentional.
It wasn't intended, but you can see that you can do that. So you should try to do that more often.
Okay.
And you're playing very smart. Like, you know that I'm going to try to trap you with my discs, so you're staying back. Like, you don't have to play aggressive against people who are being passive, you know? You can kind of play passive on your own pace, and then if you play passive against someone that's being passive, then that'll make them be more aggressive, and then you can kind of capitalize off of that. See right there, I didn't back up off of that disc that you launched towards me, so it just completely CC'd me. So that's why it's really important when someone launches a disc at you that you're backing up out of it, or else it's gonna catch you. Very nice.
Okay. And those discs, though.
Yeah, right there, that disc, I was able to catch you from the back. And that's what I was saying. It's very important to use your discs as utility. I've fought in so many Sorcs that never use their disc. And I'm not going to lie. The first 2 years I played Sorc, I never used my disc. I never knew that it was so important until I started seeing other people use them.
I just started recently, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
It's a little embarrassing. I had my graphics set to low instead of lowest. And then somebody, that hash that I was fighting earlier was like, oh, do you have it set to lowest optimal? This was a couple days ago. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So I literally missed that cancel every freaking time I tried it. But now it's just like, you know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's easy.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's get it. You're definitely already making a huge improvement from the first couple duels because you're reading me way better than you were before, and you're kind of staying protected, and you're kind of countering some of the movement that I'm doing with your own movement and your own discs. That's kind of making it a little bit tougher on me.
Thanks.
Scuff that combo. Nice. Nice.
Maybe stop relying on it. See, that's what I mean by I rely on it too much.
On your Grim?
I know I can basically one-shot people with Grim into Soul Reaper, so I don't like do combos ever because I know I'm.
Yeah, Grim's nice. Really, the only combo that you really need to know is All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you made it to the end of the video, welcome. I hope you guys really enjoyed that coaching session. I hope you guys were able to learn something from it. I kind of left you guys off on a cliffhanger. In the next part of the video, in part 2, we're going to be talking about reset combos. You're going to be able to see someone who doesn't understand how to do a reset combo actually learning how to do it, and you're going to see the struggles that he goes through it in order to finally succeed and be able to do a reset combo. Sorc is a very combo intensive class, and it can be really frustrating at first when you're first starting to learn it. But over time, with a little bit of dedication and a little bit of practice, you're going to be able to be a master Sorc yourself.
I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you guys did, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Until next time, it's been your boy Purple Slushy. Look out tomorrow for the next video. Peace.